No individual symbolized the Athenian democracy like its greatest leader, Pericles, one of the great democratic statesmen in all of history. We know something about Pericles principally through the historian Thucydides, who's one of the greatest historians of all time and certainly the greatest of the classical historians. And in particular, we see Pericles as a political leader in a time of war and crisis, known as the Peloponnesian War, which would see Athens, the democracy, pitted against Sparta, a very different kind of constitution and kind of society. At the end of the first year of that war, the Athenians, as was part of their political ritual, gathered those who had died in the service of their state and held a public funeral. And in the history of Thucydides, there's preserved the speech that Pericles gave at the funeral. It is known as the funeral oration of Pericles. And it is the single greatest statement of the values of Athenian democracy. And indeed, we can consider it the primary source for the values of Athenian democracy. Now, in the broad sweep of human history, the Athenian democracy is an utterly unique creation. It is different from modern democracy, and at the same time, it is different even from the ancient societies of Rome and the other societies of the ancient world. And truly to understand the uniqueness and the values of the Athenian democracy, we can look closely at the funeral oration of Pericles. He says that he's come to honor those who have fallen for their state, Athens. But instead of praising their valor, which he says is obvious, he decides to praise what they have given their lives for, their city, Athens. And his entire description of Athens is a way of contrasting it with Sparta, because Athens, in its constitution, that is, in its way of life, differed fundamentally from Sparta. And he says at the very beginning of the speech, "We are the Athenians, and our constitution is democratic." That means that the people rule, and they enjoy equality before the law, the most fundamental tenet of democracy, equality before the law. And he praises the Athenian way of life. And as you read this, pay close attention to the language and to the description he provides of Athenian society. He says, "We are tolerant and open." He says, even in our laws, but more so in our day-to-day lives, we don't give each other black looks. We don't give each other dirty looks for the way we live our lives, but rather we let individuals live as they please. And he says that is our way of life. He says we are open to the world. We don't do things in secret, and we don't keep out others, but rather others come to us. And he says because of this, we enjoy all the good things of the world. And he says because of this, we are the teachers of Greece. We are the school of Hellas. We are an example to the other city-states throughout Greece. He says because of this, we have created a culture that will be the envy for the rest of history. And indeed, he says, throughout the ages, men will wonder at the monuments we created. And it's true, the Parthenon, which still towers over the city of Athens, and which is one of the most wondrous creations of the Athenian democracy, built in the age of Pericles, is still a monument that is marveled at. And it's a creation of the Athenians and an expression of their democratic spirit. He says that when you compare us to other societies, and he implicitly means Sparta, we have a different way of life, a different way of education. The Spartan way of life, boys are taken from the very earliest youths and spend their whole lives training for military affairs. He says we're every bit as courageous and every bit as capable in military affairs, but we enjoy private life. We govern ourselves and we enjoy living the lives that we want to live. And he says, I'm asking you not to serve Athens for any other reason that you might, but that you love her. And it's one of the most profound ideas of his speech, that democratic patriotism is a kind of voluntary love, that the Athenian citizens had a deeper attachment to their city, Athens, precisely because it was a free and voluntary love. It's a profound expression of what Athenian democracy meant. And we see in it two concepts of freedom. Freedom as rule, that is the rights of the citizen to govern themselves in a democracy, and a liberal kind of freedom, freedom to live your life as you would want to live it. And the Athenian democracy was an extraordinary synthesis of these two ideals of freedom.